If there's one thing humans love to do, it's poke the things we're absolutely not supposed to. Touch the hot stove, open the cursed book, say the demon's name 3 times in the mirror, classic Tuesday behavior. And here in North America, we've got an entire continent full of creatures you really shouldn't mess with. The kind that don't wait for you to believe in them. They're already out there, waiting for you to make the first mistake. These aren't the elegant legends from distant castles or moonlit manors. These are raw, hungry things that thrive where the map starts to fade. Creatures that stalk forests, crawl through deserts, and lurk in the dark edges of the wild, just waiting for someone like you to call their name out loud. You know, for fun. Tonight, we're diving into the folklore of 10 creatures from North America. Some are ancient spirits, some are modern cryptids, and a few are probably just manifestations of really bad life choices. But all of them whisper the same warning: some things aren't meant to be searched for. So grab a flashlight, maybe a salt circle, and a strong sense of self-preservation, because curiosity has a terrible track record. So, let's start with a personal favorite of the absolutely don't summon this thing variety, the Goatman. Half man, half goat, all bad attitude. Legend says he roams the backroads of Maryland, lurking in the woods near Beltsville and Bowie. If you believe the stories, he's not just wandering, he's hunting, screaming like a slaughtered goat, swinging an axe, and chasing down anyone dumb enough to wander into his territory after dark. Depending on who you ask, the Goatman's origins range from tragic to straight-up ridiculous. The most famous version claims he was a scientist at the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center who thought splicing goat DNA with human DNA was a great idea. Spoiler, it wasn't. The experiment supposedly transformed him into a monstrous hybrid, half man, half goat, and fully unfit for polite society. But not everyone buys the mad scientist angle. Some locals say the Goatman was once a hermit who lived deep in the woods, raising goats and keeping to himself. His long beard and strange habits earned him his nickname long before the sightings ever started. When he vanished, the stories began, and suddenly that quiet old man became the monster in the trees. Either way, this guy is Maryland's answer to the question, what if science and solitude had a baby? Witnesses report hearing hoofbeats echoing through the trees and a high-pitched bleating that doesn't sound quite animal or human. He's said to mimic voices, calling out for help just to lure the curious closer. And honestly, if something in the woods is yelling, "Hey, come here," that's your sign to absolutely not come there. Locals say the Goatman still stalks the forests around Fletchertown Road, hiding behind trees, waiting for headlights to pass. Those who've seen him up close describe a hulking, horned figure, half beast, half man, 100% therapy material. So if you're planning a midnight adventure in Maryland, maybe just don't. Go home. Watch this video instead. You'll live longer. Next up, the creature that absolutely no one in their right mind should summon or even talk about too much, the Skinwalker. If the Goatman is the loud, axe-wielding maniac of American folklore, the Skinwalker is the one who doesn't need an axe. It just needs your face. Originating from Navajo tradition, the Skinwalker is a witch who uses forbidden magic to shapeshift into animals. But not the cute kind of transformation, like Disney would have you believe. No, this is the horrifying, wear someone else's skin and run through the desert on all fours kind of shapeshifting. The stories say they gain their power through the darkest possible rituals, by breaking taboos so extreme they sever their connection to humanity completely. Once that happens, they can become wolves, coyotes, owls, anything they want, and sometimes they mimic human voices to lure victims closer. Imagine hearing your best friend call your name from the darkness, only to realize they're standing right next to you. Yeah, that's a hard pass. Even saying the word Skinwalker out loud is considered dangerous in some circles because it's said they can hear their name when it's spoken. Which means if you're watching this in the dark, you might not be watching alone. Joking aside, the Navajo see these beings as something deeply real and deeply evil, So no summoning rituals, no Skinwalker challenges, no pretending it's just a creepypasta for clicks. People who live near those desert canyons still refuse to talk about them after sunset. And when the wind starts howling through the rocks, sometimes they'll whisper that it isn't the wind at all. So yeah, if you ever find yourself in the deserts of the Southwest and hear something sprinting behind you, don't go investigating. That's how horror movies start, my friends. All right, moving on from desert nightmares to something with wings and a surprisingly devoted fan base. Meet the Mothman, West Virginia's very own red-eyed warning sign from hell. The first sightings go back to 1966 in Point Pleasant, where locals started reporting a man-sized creature with 10-foot wings and glowing red eyes. It supposedly chased cars, perched on rooftops, and generally terrorized the town like a gothic Batman who forgot whose side he's on. But here's the part that really cements Mothman's reputation. Soon after the sightings began, the Silver Bridge collapsed, killing 46 people. After that, Mothman wasn't just a monster anymore. He became a prophecy, a feathered omen of tragedy. Basically, the folklore version of your phone sending you a "we need to talk" text. People still debate whether he's evil or just misunderstood. Some say he's trying to warn us before disaster strikes. Others think he causes the disasters. Either way, if he's a messenger, he's got the worst timing imaginable. And because humans never learn, plenty of folks have tried to summon him since then. They go out to the old TNT area near Point Pleasant, shine flashlights into the woods, and call for him like he's going to politely land and take a selfie. Spoiler, he doesn't. What they do usually get is an overwhelming feeling of dread, the sound of wings in the dark, and a story they'll never tell again, mostly because no one believes them. The Mothman's legend has grown so big that Point Pleasant literally built him a statue, which, if you think about it, is kind of like building a monument to your neighborhood's most efficient stalker. But hey, tourism's tourism. So, if you ever see glowing red eyes watching you from above, don't assume it's an owl. Maybe just say, "Okay, Mothman, big fan, love your work," and slowly back away. Now let's flap our way east to the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, home of the state's most chaotic resident. And no, I don't mean Snooki. I'm talking about the Jersey Devil. The legend dates back to the 1700s, when a woman known as Mother Leeds gave birth to her 13th child. Apparently exhausted and done with life, she cursed the newborn and said, "Let this one be a devil," which, to be fair, is one way to spice up a baby shower. The child was born normal for about 3 seconds. Then, right in front of the horrified midwives, it sprouted leathery wings, hooves, a forked tail, and let out a scream that could curdle milk. It killed everyone in the room, or maybe just traumatized them into silence, and then shot up the chimney and disappeared into the woods. Since then, the Jersey Devil's been blamed for everything from livestock mutilations to strange cries echoing through the trees. And honestly, that's kind of the Pine Barrens vibe. Pitch black forest, endless isolation, and the faint sound of something flapping overhead when the wind goes still. Some say you can summon it by shouting, "Mother Leeds' 13th child" 3 times into the forest. Others say you just need to be dumb enough to wander those woods alone after midnight. Either method works if your goal is to meet a flying goat bat that screams like a banshee and smells like despair. Over the centuries, the Jersey Devil's become such a hometown celebrity that even skeptics are afraid to mock it too loudly. There's a reason New Jersey named their old hockey team after him, and I'm guessing it wasn't because of his excellent sportsmanship. So if you ever find yourself in South Jersey and you hear a shriek that sounds halfway between a horse and your soul leaving your body, my advice is to not wait around to identify it. If the Jersey Devil is chaos on wings, then the Wendigo is hunger with a face, and not the fun "I forgot to eat breakfast" kind of hunger. This is the kind that eats you instead. The Wendigo comes from Algonquin folklore, and it's basically what happens when winter, starvation, and greed combine into one horrifying creature. The legend says that when a person resorts to cannibalism, even out of desperation, they become possessed by an insatiable spirit. Their heart turns to ice, their soul freezes, and they transform into something that's never full again. It's described as tall, emaciated, with skin stretched tight over bones and eyes sunken deep. Some stories say it's covered in frost. Others say it reeks of decay and whispers to travelers, luring them off paths during blizzards. Basically, the worst hiking buddy imaginable. But here's the fun part. You don't have to actually eat anyone to attract it. The Wendigo isn't just a monster. It's a metaphor for endless greed. It's said to appear wherever humans take more than they need. So, if capitalism ever goes missing, maybe start the search party in Canada's forests. Even speaking its name too often is said to draw its attention. It doesn't rush toward the sound. It circles it, patient, like winter itself. There are stories of Wendigo hunters, medicine men who perform ceremonies to trap or destroy it, but most accounts end the same way, with a scream that echoes through the trees and a silence that follows too quickly. Because once you've seen a Wendigo, you probably don't get to tell the story. So if you're wandering through a frozen forest and you feel the wind stop, if you catch a glimpse of antlers in the snow, or if something whispers your name in a voice that sounds almost like your own, keep walking. You can't reason with hunger. All right, let's take a break from ice demons and bloodthirsty monsters to talk about something a little more relatable. Everyone's favorite forest cryptid, the king of blurry photos, the one and only Bigfoot. Now, compared to the Wendigo, Bigfoot seems downright wholesome. He's like the cryptid version of that weird uncle who shows up at family reunions, smells like pine, and has too many opinions about hiking boots. But make no mistake, there's still something deeply unsettling about the idea of something huge watching you from the tree line. The sightings go way back. Native American legends speak of hairy giants who lived deep in the woods, while modern reports started exploding in the 1950s. Since then, people have found footprints the size of dinner plates, heard guttural screams in the night, and caught shaky footage that looks suspiciously like a guy in a gorilla suit having a bad day. Still, the lore runs deep. Bigfoot isn't just a forest ape. He's often described as intelligent, even supernatural. Some claim he can vanish at will or communicate telepathically. As for summoning him, there's actually a method. It involves making wood knocks, howling into the forest, and leaving food offerings. Because nothing says great life choices, like inviting a 10-foot mystery primate to your campsite. People have devoted their lives to finding Bigfoot. There are whole festivals, research teams, and merch lines. And you know what? I get it. There's something romantic about believing that in all our satellite-mapped, hyper-documented world, there's still something out there that refuses to be caught. So whether he's a surviving hominid, a spirit of the forest, or just the champion of hide-and-seek, Bigfoot remains the ultimate mystery. Just maybe don't go out there banging sticks together at midnight trying to say hi. If he's real, he's heard enough of that already. For this next one, we're heading south, where the air's hot, the goats are nervous, and the locals have learned to sleep with one eye open. Meet the Chupacabra, one of North America's most infamous bloodsuckers, and frankly, the reason I'd never want to own a farm. The name literally means goat sucker, which sounds funny right up until you realize it's not a metaphor. The Chupacabra first made headlines in Puerto Rico after farmers found their livestock mysteriously drained of blood. The blood is said to be sucked through one or more puncture wounds, often in a triangular pattern. Descriptions vary because eyewitnesses can't seem to agree if it looks like a reptilian alien, a mangy dog, or something cooked up in an off-brand Resident Evil lab. One farmer described it as having glowing red eyes, spines down its back, and leathery green skin, basically what you'd get if E.T. went feral. As the legend spread across Mexico, Texas, and the American Southwest, so did the panic. Ranchers started setting traps, hunters went looking, and conspiracy theorists said it was a government experiment gone rogue. Honestly, if I had $1 for every monster created by a government experiment gone wrong, I might have enough money to fund one myself. They say you can attract a chupacabra by leaving fresh blood or meat out under a full moon, but, I'd really advise you don't do that. This isn't a raccoon we're talking about. There are better ways to spend your Saturday night than getting your jugular sampled by a space lizard. Some believe the chupacabra's still out there, migrating north, adapting to new environments. Others think it was just mangy coyotes and mass hysteria. But every few years, someone swears they've seen glowing eyes in the desert, and a few unlucky farmers wake up to find their livestock dry as a bone. Now, if the chupacabra feels like something straight out of a monster movie, the next one feels more like an alien that got lost on the way to its abduction shift. Let's talk about the Dover Demon, Massachusetts' most uncomfortable mystery. In 1977, a 17-year-old named Bill Bartlett was driving home one night when his headlights caught something crawling along a stone wall. He described it as a pale, spindly creature with huge, glowing orange eyes, a bulbous head, and limbs like sticks. Over the next 2 nights, 2 more teenagers reported seeing the exact same thing, always at night, always near the woods. So either there was a hairless alien intern wandering around New England, or Massachusetts really needed better street lighting. What made it creepier is that it didn't attack anyone. It just watched. Silent, expressionless, like it was studying us and deciding, yeah, hard pass on this species. Witnesses said it moved awkwardly, like it didn't quite understand how its body worked, which honestly, same after sitting too long at my desk. No one's ever figured out what the Dover Demon was. Some say it was an alien, others a mutant animal, and the truly cursed theory, a baby cryptid that never made it to adulthood, which means somewhere out there could have been more of them. So, if you're ever in Dover and you feel like something's watching you, it probably is. Just pretend you didn't notice anything and hope it decides you're not interesting. Next up, we're headed to West Virginia again, because apparently that entire state is just one long paranormal hotspot. This time though, it's not Mothman watching from the trees. It's his glowing robotic cousin, the Flatwoods Monster. Picture this. It's 1952, small town, clear night sky. A group of kids see something blazing across the heavens and crash into a nearby hill. Naturally, they do what every horror movie warns you not to do. They go check it out. What they find waiting in the dark is something no one's been able to explain since. The creature stood about 10 feet tall, floating just above the ground, wearing what looked like a spade-shaped hood and a metallic dress. Yes, apparently even aliens were rocking couture in the 50s. Its head glowed red, its eyes pulsed like flashlights, and it hissed a cloud of noxious gas that burned their throats. Basically, it was giving vintage nightmare with a touch of industrial chic. The kids ran home screaming because, obviously, and within hours the military was sniffing around, which, as we all know, is the universal sign that something did happen. The official explanation was a meteor and mass hysteria, which sounds like the government's favorite 2-for-1 excuse. Over the years, the story only got weirder. Some say it wasn't an alien at all, but a mechanical suit, piloted by something inside. Others think it was a secret military experiment that crashed. Personally, I think it was an intergalactic fashion model who took one wrong turn at Mars. Flatwoods has since leaned hard into the legend. You can actually visit the town's monster museum, buy plushies, and take a photo with a statue that looks like a space nun who's seen some things. Nothing says American folklore quite like turning trauma into merch. Still, people report strange lights over those hills and an eerie metallic odor that lingers on the wind. So if you're visiting rural West Virginia and see something glowing red in the trees, don't stop to investigate. Just wave, say, "Love the outfit," and run away as fast as you can. Let's end our little tour of nightmares high in the clouds, literally, because this next creature isn't hiding in the woods or under your bed. It's watching from above, waiting for the right moment to blot out the sky. Meet the Thunderbird, North America's original flying apocalypse. This colossal bird appears across many indigenous legends from the Pacific Northwest to the Great Plains, and it's said to be the living embodiment of the storm. When its wings flap, thunder roars. When it blinks, lightning cracks across the sky. Basically, Mother Nature's version of "don't test me." The Thunderbird isn't inherently evil, but you definitely don't want to summon it. Some stories describe it as a guardian spirit, protector against evil water monsters. Others, as a cosmic force that punishes arrogance. Either way, it's not exactly taking fan requests. Folklore says you can call the Thunderbird by imitating its cry or performing a ritual on a mountaintop during a storm, which honestly feels like a Darwin Award application form. The few who've supposedly tried it report gale force winds, booming thunder, and the sudden urge to apologize to the sky. The Thunderbird is raw, divine power, beautiful, terrifying, and completely untamed. It reminds us that some forces aren't meant to be named, let alone summoned. So if thunder's rolling and the clouds are twisting into something that looks a little too alive, maybe don't stand there holding your phone like a lightning rod. Get inside, say thank you, and let the sky keep its secrets. From forests that whisper your name to skies that grow teeth, this continent is practically begging us to stop poking the supernatural. But do we listen? Of course not. We've been summoning things since the dawn of time. Curiosity, greed, boredom, take your pick. We can't resist asking, what if it's real? Even when the answer might bite. And maybe that's why these legends never die. They feed on fascination. Every whisper, every what if, every midnight search through folklore forums just to freak ourselves out a little more. The moment we stop talking about them, they fade. But until then, something out there is listening. So the next time you hear a bump in the dark or a voice calling your name from somewhere it shouldn't be, remember, you watched this video, you know better. Maybe don't go investigating. Maybe just turn the light on, pretend you didn't hear it, and hope it loses interest. If you want more dives into the strange, the haunted, and the probably cursed, you know what to do. Like and subscribe so you don't have to summon me next time. I'll bring the monsters right to you. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and whatever you do, don't say their names out loud alone in the woods at night.